It's 4 o'clock. So this is the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting of Wednesday, November 23rd. It's my first time chairing a meeting, so I appreciate all your patience. The first item on the agenda is the minutes of the October 19th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
And second? Good. Thank you very much. The next committee meeting is December 21st, and the tentative date is 4 o'clock, so check the website because there may be changes there. Councillor Heed has asked for 2 additions to the agenda, so I'd like to make them 6A and 6B. 6A is traffic pattern changes for River Road, Cedar Bridge to Holly Bridge, and 6B is additional welcome signs to the City of Richmond. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, then I'd like to make have a motion to accept the agenda as amended. And seconded. Thank you very much. We're rocketing along here. All right, the first agenda item is the Planning and Development Division. It's the application for the 2022-2023 BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program. We have staff on the line. Do you have any highlights or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any updates to the staff report and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I believe Councillor Wolf, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to staff, my question, I know on our bottom of our PWT 11 page, it mentions that the city was permitted to submit 2 applications. Could staff comment on the decision to only apply to 1?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, certainly the city does typically apply for 1 or 2 projects on an annual basis for this grant. For this particular intake cycle, the 1 project proposed before you meets all the eligibility requirements that the province sets out. I will note that these eligibility requirements, unlike the TransLink grants, are more rigid and stringent with respect to where the project is in terms of its implementation. It also requires that the projects be active transportation related, that all project funding, including external funding, already be secured, and that the project be constructed within a specific window of construction period for start and completion. So the 1 project that we're proposing before you completely fulfilled the province's eligibility requirements.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Through the chair, just a follow-up question. To clarify, as I know, as you mentioned, it's very stringent, and I remember from previous grant program applications, this will not allow fixing old infrastructure. Is that correct? We couldn't use this funding source to do that, like I'd say widen a sidewalk that's 4 or 5 feet wide to make it 7 or 8 feet wide. Could that type of a project fit in here?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, no, this project granting fund does not permit for maintenance related works on existing infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a disappointment in the maybe lack of funding to do some essential active transportation updates. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wolf. Does anybody else have any questions of staff? Recommendations. All right, yeah. I think that this is it's awesome that we could potentially get $500,000 from the BC Active Transportation Grant Fund. It would actually reduce the price from 2.4 to 1.9 million for the Steveston multi-use plan. So yeah, hopefully we get the money. So all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that's carried. Item number 2 is the TransLink 2023 Cost Sharing Fund applications for capital projects. We have, again, staff on line here. Did you have any comments or highlights?
Nothing further on this one either, Madam Chair. Staff are available to answer any questions.
All right. Councillor Wolf, you have a question?
Yes, my question, a couple. First one is through the chair to staff. on our page, PWT 21, 22, and 23, the text is really small. Is there anything that you know that we should be getting out of those diagrams other than the non-text components to them? Is there anything you wanted to highlight?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, these are conceptual renderings as a few of these projects are at the conceptual design phase. What I can point out to you is that for the intersection improvement projects, those are as a result of the city's top 20 collision-prone intersection work that was done a few years ago, endorsed by council, and predominantly the scope of work for those projects includes removing channelized right turns to improve road safety for cyclists and motorists.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions, Councillor Wolf? Move recommendation. Okay, good. Well, this is again an exciting cooperation with the TransLink. One of the funds is $5.256 million, so hopefully we get our share of that, and the other is $3.97 million. So definitely a great way to spend those transit dollars on infrastructure that we need. So all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. The third item on the agenda is the award of contract for on-call elevator contractors. Staff is also in line for this. Do you have any highlights or comments?
Through the chair, nothing further to add to the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Councillor Wolf, you have a question on this?
Yes, I did ask staff on this item and the next one, and they could just comment if they have the answer now. In the of the knowledge, if the for item number 3, if the West Coast Elevator Services Limited is a living wage employer.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we've been advised by the contractor West Coast Elevator that they are paying a living wage.
Great, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. That was the second. Thank you. Well, that's good news. That was a good question, Councillor Wolf. So West Coast provided service the last 4 years, and the quotes between it and Richmond Elevator West Coast are quite close. So I think that this is going to be an excellent service for the 26 elevators that the city currently owns. All those in favor? Those opposed? Good. All right. Item number 4 is the award of a contract for on-call HVAC service providers. And I note that there are 3 companies that will be providing the service for this. Are there any additional comments or highlights from staff?
Through the chair, nothing further to add to the report. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Is there any questions? Councillor Liu?
Thank you, through you to staff. So is this for repair, does this group also work with, say, renovations and that sort of thing? So like when we're doing a renovation to City Hall and there's an open construction, are they doing the HVAC then as well?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, this award contract is for maintenance and repairs for all city facilities. There's also some minor projects that we may use these contractors for.
Okay, and were these the same guys that were with the Gateway a couple years ago?
Through the chair, the Councillor Liu, I'm unsure if they were with Gateway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just got Councillor Wolf next on the line, and then we'll do you, Councillor Au.
Well, thank you. Through the chair to staff, just the same question as last time. Are we aware of the living wage employer status of these 3 companies?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we've been advised that these contractors are paying a living wage.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and that leaves Councillor Au next on the list.
Yes, I understand that when we send out the tender invitation, it's been very clear to the competitors that this will be shared, right? So at the end, we also share the contract with by 3 companies. So this is fully understood, and this kind of percentage won't be a problem for these companies to work together. or to work with?
Through the chair to Councilor Al, our RFP proposal did state this within the tender process, and the feedback we have received is, yes, there are no concerns or issues with how we are issuing out the work in terms of the percentages.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, I had a question as well. When I was on the school board, we had HVAC employees in the employment of the school board. And I was just wondering if staff could explain the benefit or cost of us potentially having HVAC employees on hand for the city of Richmond.
Through the chair to Councilor Day, currently we do not have qualified staff internally providing the service. The city we have a lot of facilities and lots of HVAC assets. There is a potential benefit with having internal. There's also a negative with also having internal. These external contractors provide, and they stay update with the latest technologies, with the latest standards and protocols required to provide best quality service and maintenance and operations for our HVAC equipment.
That makes logical sense. And I see that there's an additional 2-year contract, but I like this part, based on each individual contractor's service and performance after the initial term. So I'm glad that we've got that in there. So if we get good service, we can extend the contracts. Is there any other questions? Nothing? Okay, then all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, that is carried. Item number 5 is options for snow removal from priority pedestrian corridors. And this is a referral response from this committee. And do we have a staff member who would like to speak to this and add any additional comments or highlights?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here. We have no additions to the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I think Councillor Liu would like to speak.
Thank you, through the chair to you. I appreciate this information. So what I'm seeing is it's $502,000 to get some of those key areas done. And so if this isn't approving that specifically, it's just talking about it. So if we want it, we have to add it to the budget and send it to the budget from here?
That's correct.
Okay.
However, staff is not recommending it, Councillor.
Okay, and then when you talk about clearing within 72 hours of our bike lanes and those kind of things, how often do we still have snow after 72 hours?
Through the chair, Councillor Liu, depends on the winter.
Okay, so how many times in the
Last
last
year
3 years?
Last year we had 14 days of snow steady
Okay.
that was on the ground. If we go through with our trial, it will give us that opportunity to at least give this an effort and see how it goes. As I said, every winter is different.
Okay, so the one that's being proposed is to use the F-550 trucks with the snow plow, used with larger snow response. And this is going to be done on which pathways are we talking now? So it sounds like it's just 2, right? Railway and Alderbridge?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, that's correct. At this point, yes.
Okay. Is there some other route in East Richmond, like say around 5 and Canby or some other spot that would make some sense? Like are we overly putting it onto one side of Richmond than the other? Or is there somewhere else that's been lower prioritized, but still another good option?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, again, this is not sidewalks. These are multi-use pathways that we're looking at clearing. The issue comes around sidewalks, that we have to maintain them on a regular basis. If we do brine them, if we do apply application to get rid of the ice, then we do have to maintain it through that time.
Okay.
The sidewalks are not an easy thing to
No.
clear. It does seem very easy, but we've got pedestrians coming at us as you're cleaning the sidewalk. Where do you go? Do you put where do you put the snow? And it is as I said, as it says in the report, the bylaw should cover all of those issues that are presented through that.
Okay. What about the Westminster Highway multi-use path? Is that possible to be included in this pilot, or it needs this special size?
We can certainly, if the council so wishes, yes, of course, we can put that in.
Okay, thank you.
I think Councillor Heed, you'd like to?
I'd like to make an amendment at the end of this one.
Okay, maybe we could just finish with the speakers first, Councillor Liu. Okay, Councillor Heed?
Madam Chair, thank you. Just for my clarification, so when we look at attachment 1, when we have the breakdown of costs, and that leads up to 502,800. So that was just for the pedestrian sidewalk snow removal priority, if I can call it, at that time, which you are recommending we do not go forward with at this time.
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Galanders.
Thank you through the chair to Mr. Ford. I have a question about the multi-use pathway on Williams west of One Road. That wasn't cleared last year, and that's just on the road, and it's the only route to walk. My kids were delivering the paper and they had a wagon, so they couldn't do that side of the road at all. There's no sidewalks there either. So is that included in this pilot as well?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, no, at this point it was not.
Any other questions, Councillor Galanders?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wolf, you're next.
Thank you, through the chair to staff on this one. First, I was trying to find from a previous report, I remember there was like a pilot or something with, I don't know if it was a Kubota RTV, but it was some small Zamboni-like size thing that was going to test out its ability. And I remember asking if it could be utilized on the Westminster Highway multi-use pathway. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do we have one already in our fleet?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we do have one. Saying that I would prefer to use the 550s with the brine tank and the plow. Our Kubota does not have a brine attachment. It is cold to drive in the winter. It is not covered, not heated cab. So there would be some discomfort for staff.
Could you speak through the chair? Could staff just speak to what is the ideal use of that piece of equipment in our fleet then?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, it is actually a parks vehicle. They use it for transporting small materials around around their sites, their construction sites, I believe.
Okay, thank you. I think I've seen them at some park events, but
Yeah. Not attached to our fleet,
okay.
Public Works.
Thank you. My other question or comment, I guess, under pedestrian sidewalk snow removal, one of the areas where I see it most hazardous is beside development sites where there's actually no house, no one living there. It's a property owned by a business, numbered company, I don't know. And they have maybe those fences up, those temporary save-on fence material. They can get blown over. They can cause tripping hazards. Ideally, I think in this proposal, which I appreciate staff's take on it, I also feel that there is more that we need to do, maybe through strengthening the bylaw. Maybe it is through fines for those properties that are not doing it. And we need to let the owners of it know that they have, even though they're not living in it yet, or their future residents aren't living in it yet, they need to take the responsibility now when it snows. So yeah, I guess it doesn't need to come in this report, but I think maybe just a direction to staff to maybe get a bit more fine or use of fines for those types of properties.
Councillor Wolf, we have a comment from Mr. Irving. Mr. Irving?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and just in direct response to Councillor Wolf, yes, we are looking at the bylaw and additional things we can do there. It certainly is, it's a fairly big and complex piece. We were trying to include it in all of this, but that will be coming back to Council for consideration as well. Certainly consistent with the recommendations here, we are recommending that we continue to rely on property owners to provide that service. And I just wanted to add the comment, behind Mr. Ford's responses, and the estimate of $500,000 to provide this additional level of service that we're not recommending. Part of the challenge with this kind of snow removal is, of course, it is incredibly variable. And the level of service that we provide on our priority routes allows for a given number of passes on those routes in a 24-hour period. And if you recall, the snowstorm, the big one that we had last year that was hitting in the middle of the night, Larry had the guys out there with their plows. And we had people complaining because they said, well, the plows aren't out. When the plow just went by an hour ago, but it was snowing so heavy, it looks like it hasn't been by, And that's the real challenge when we get into sidewalks and the pathways. So if you fund a level of capacity to buy the Kubotas and hire the staff to provide that level of service, it's incredibly difficult to, I think, it's only in the perfect conditions where you're going to be able to respond, do your pass on the pathway and leave it in a condition that's going to be really usable for pedestrians for a given length of time. What might very typically happen is, you send a Kubota down and it's actually compressing snow that it doesn't plow and creating icier conditions on the path and making it worse than what it was before. I think everybody's probably experienced when you go down a sidewalk and it's gotten icy just from the footprints and you tend to walk in the fluffy snow and it's a little safer and that kind of thing. So the variability we have of the conditions here, and the fact, as Mr. Ford indicated, when you get onto sidewalks, you actually have people using those. So with vehicular traffic, it becomes a big safety concern, but it really becomes challenging to actually provide the service level you're hoping to provide because the conditions can vary so considerably from hour to hour, day to day.
Are there any other questions before we go to Councillor Liu's amendment? I'm seeing none. Councillor Liu?
Thank you. I would like to amend that we add this prioritized walk-friendly snow removal routes for 502,800 and refer it to the finance.
Sorry, can't hear if the microphone's not turned on, maybe?
Oh, my apologies.
Thanks.
Sorry about that, Councillor Liu.
I'd like to amend that we add an item number 3 to this. I think it's number 3 we're adding here, are we? Options for snow removal, here we are.
C?
Sorry, add a C, sorry.
Yeah.
I knew there was 3 parts to this, or 2 parts to it. That we add C to it, that we add the prioritized walk-friendly snow removal routes for $502,800 as summarized in attachment 1, and send this to, so that we have proper snow removal in City Center, Steveston, Village, Ironwood, and the other locations identified here.
So your motion to amend would be to add the $500,000 to, and send it to Finance Committee?
Are we sending this to finance, or we just send it to council?
I'll just, through the chair to Councillor Liu, if that was the committee's wish, then yes, that would go to council.
Okay, we'll
for
just send it to
endorsement,
council. We'll just,
And then we would bring that forward in the budget.
and it'll come forward in the budget, okay. So I'd like to add this amount. I'd like to get the snow cleared in these identified areas, and that's my motion.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Au has seconded the motion. Would anybody like to speak to the motion?
Well, I'll speak on it and I'll
Oh, okay,
say
go
why
ahead.
I'm moving this. We've done a lot of work as a council and as a community to try and support people being able to move throughout the city by other means than vehicles. Not everyone has access to a vehicle, and when there is a snowfall event, especially in the areas identified here, City Centre, Steveston Village, Ironwood, Canby Mall, Richmond Hospital, Canada Line stations, community centers, libraries, shopping plazas, etc. These are where people need to be able to go. This is where we need people to be able to get to and to be able to move around and to feel safe when they're moving around. Those are the people we want to be able to get out of their house in the event of a snow incident so that they aren't feeling left out, marginalized, or forgotten about, or that they're not getting their groceries or their prescriptions or anything else that they need. And I think this is one of the ways we do that, is we make sure we get the snow cleared and we have the availability.
All right, Councillor Heed, I believe you wanted to speak to this item?
Yes,
This
thank you,
amendment?
Madam Chair. I agree with the concept of the amendment. Some of the concerns I have, and I'm not sure staff may be able to answer this, is the fact that if we go out and we spend this money to do it, the people that have the responsibility, whether it's a commercial business, a small business, or even a residential area, are then let off the hook for not taking the responsibility under the bylaw to clear the snow in front of their premise. So my question to staff is, how would we ensure that we're able to continue with a deterrence in place to penalize these people through a bylaw infraction, when in fact we're going to go in and we're going to clear that snow? That's the first question. The second question I have is respect to how many people have been fined under the bylaw, for example, during the snow period last year, and were those commercial or residential?
Who on staff would like to take that on?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Councillor Heed. I'm not sure I have any information on infractions that we have sent bylaw officers out on. Typically, again, the events aren't that long lasting, and by the time you get out there, sometimes the snow is gone. Mr. Ford might have more information. In regards to the bylaw responsibility, yes. If this was council's direction to go with this level of service, we would have to look at the bylaw. I don't think on the surface of it, it would alleviate any property owner from their responsibilities. They would perhaps just have less to do if we got out there before they did. But we would have to look at that more closely. Again, what we've presented to you in terms of a cost and a service level represents, a response to 3 events and 14 passes. So if we had a winter similar to last year where we had considerably more snow, we would have perhaps come back to council and say we need more funding for that particular season, or perhaps more resources. So that's where some of the challenge comes in with regards to how, what level of funding we commit to equipment we purchased, to staff that we have on board for a given season. If you have a really warm winter, you might not use any of it. If you have a really bad winter, what you're providing is going to get used up very quickly. That's part of the challenge there for sure. And I would just add the point, certainly if, with council direction on this, likely we wouldn't have this in place for this winter. So it would be an option if council wanted to go in this direction. It could be referred and we could bring this back with an implementation program and a revised bylaw and recommendations around that would be consistent.
Thank you, Mr. Irving. I was just going to ask that question. It's almost November. How could we possibly be ready for this by the time we get our second snowfall, given that we've already had one? I'm not comfortable with supporting the amendment at this time. I think what I'd rather see is the pilot projects go ahead and then have a report back in the spring, and that would give us plenty of time to purchase more equipment for next winter. So I'm not going to be supporting the amendment. Are there any other comments or questions on the amendment? Okay, having heard none. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment? Councillor Liu, Councillor Au. Those opposed to the amendment? Councillor Heed, Councillor Day, Councillor Wolf. So it is defeated. So we're back to the main motion as written. Councillor Liu, did you want to speak to the main motion?
Thank you. I support the main motion. I'm wondering if staff can provide just a memo to us on alternatives to the Kubota that they looked at. I'm sure you looked at more than just the Kubota. I know I saw going down the Arbutus Greenway the other day, something that was also removing leaves, and I wonder if it does dual purposes to removing leaves and snow or what it does. So I know that there's things that are designed for those multi-use paths, and if we could have a clear understanding of what you looked at and what's available and what the price point is and why you chose the Kubota, I think that would be helpful to us as well.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be taken under advisement. Okay, so all of those in favor of options for snow removal, item 5, put your hand up. All those in favor? All right, any opposed? None? Good. So that is passed. Item number 6 on the agenda is an update for the 2023-2022 snow and ice response preparations. We've all seen that mountain of salt at the end of number 5 road. Staff, do you have anything that you would like to comment on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no additional report.
All
And
right.
happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wolf, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, through the chair to staff. On our page PWT 50, it's the attachment 1 snow response equipment. I guess my question is about, we just approved hiring a new staff for electric vehicle infrastructure. So my question is about electric vehicles. Are any of the units listed in this table electric vehicles? And the second part to the question, when the F-150 Lightnings, I think there were 2 of them, are in the fleet, would any of those have snow response responsibilities?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, none of the vehicles listed here are electric, and the 2 Lightning vehicles are just pickups. They would not be suitable to have the brine tanks on the back and plows on the front.
Thank you. Oh, Miss Bycroft, maybe you wanted to add?
The chair to Councillor Wolf. We do not have the Lightnings at this point. We are trying to get our order into the order bank. We do have some hybrid trucks that we have that Mr. Ford was referring to, just to clarify.
All right. Any other questions from council? Yeah, I actually had just a couple of comments. That we had a meeting earlier today, and I learned that if we look on page P51, the very back of the report, we have sensors in the key intersections that are monitored by the Public Works Department, and these sensors are available for viewing by the public. And I would like to have the link for that sent to council so we can pass that on to the public. And I also learned today that the traffic cameras are also online. So those are 2 valuable sources for the public. And I think I'd like to share that with the public, and hoping that council can send those, or sorry, that staff can send those through to council.
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And is there any other comments on number 6? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. All right, so 6A, Councillor Heed, you asked that traffic pattern changes for River Road between Cedar Bridge and Holly Bridge be added to the agenda. And what would you like to say about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I did advise staff that I would be looking into this, or asking them to look into it. And this refers to River Road, and this refers to driving east on River Road from I believe it's Holly Bridge Way. And at that point, when you come up to the intersection, you must turn right. There's only a right-hand turning lane. Then going through the intersection, you can go into the right-hand lane because there's 2 lanes there until the next street where you're required to turn right. Right up to Gilbert Road, it's the same thing. You must turn right on Gilbert Road. And then when you go further, and I believe it's Cedar Bridge Way, you can turn right onto Cedar Bridge Way. The point I want to make is the fact that we have cars that are lined up all along River Road in the straight through lane right to River Road past Gilbert. Very seldom is that right-hand lane even utilized. And I don't understand why, and maybe we can have some explanation, and I can withdraw this referral if in fact it's explained satisfactory today, or we can refer it to staff to come back after they look at it. The comparison to Lansdowne Road, which runs parallel, where in fact the right-hand lane is not required to, or the right lane is not required to make an absolute right turn until after Gilbert Road onto, I believe it's Alderbridge Way. I'm having difficulty determining the difference here, and the problems I have in traveling this so often, the fact that it's lined up all the way from Gilbert Road all the way to Holly Bridge Way, while that right lane is not utilized whatsoever.
I believe Mr. B is on the line. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Heed, we can certainly have a look at that. Certainly as the area developed, the traffic designations or alignments or lane utilization was based on traffic studies, but the area is growing, and it's probably a good time to check and make sure that those things are working as they should. And we can certainly do a traffic study out there and determine whether or not these lanes are completely underutilized, as you note, or if they do have some utility, and we can bring that back to you or to the rest of the committee if that's what the committee would like to see.
So I think that's just a direction to staff for a memo and a traffic study. Are you satisfied with that, Councillor Heed?
Yes, thank you, sir, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Item 6B is also Councillor Heed's item. It's an additional welcome signs to Richmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're entering Richmond from various points, we have certain welcome signs. For example, when you come off the Oak Street Bridge onto Sea Island Way, you've got a nice sign just down below. When you come out of the tunnel onto Steveston, you have a nice welcome to Richmond sign. We don't really have these inviting signs elsewhere at certain points into Richmond. For example, coming from Hamilton, for example, even coming off of the Two Road or Dinsmore Bridge into Richmond proper, if I could use that term, we don't have this. So I just wanted staff to explore what we could do to, again, make it more welcoming and to identify certainly that you're in the city of Richmond, et cetera, rather than just you're now entering Richmond or something like that. For example, when you come off the Oak Street Bridge onto 4 Road, there's a little sign on the post says you're now entering Richmond.
All right, would staff like to comment on that? Mr. Irving?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Heed. Yeah, we can certainly look at that. I'm not sure. Oh. And on. Can anybody hear me?
Oh,
Or?
Lord, there I go again. No, you're on, you're on.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, no, I left you on.
Yeah, sorry, through you to Councillor Heed. Yes, we can certainly have a look at that and report back to the committee. I think at this point, we probably don't need any formal referral. We can just look at what we've had and provide a memo to council, and perhaps there's a referral that comes out of that investigation.
All right, and this seems like a great opportunity to use the many talents at the Workshard, and maybe we could come up with a creative way to use, materials we already have on hand and create maybe a fun project that could potentially be a competition with staff. So have some fun with it. Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing back on that, Mr. Irving. Okay, next on the list, number 7 is managers' reports. I understand that Mr. B has some updates.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. There are a couple of updates from transportation. The first one is related to the Highway 99 tunnel program. The transit-only connection from Bridgeport Road to Highway 99 opened to buses on November 7th. And the second update that we have is about a new traffic signal that was activated at the 8100 block on Cook Road in City Center. This is mid-block between number 3 Road and Buswell Streets. It's at the Celtic Development site access.
Great, that should provide better access. Great. And I believe,
Thank you.
Ms. Bycraft, you had an update as well?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We just wanted to highlight, council will be seeing a memo shortly as a result of last year's atmospheric river event that was quite significant. We put together Getting Ready for Rain communications for residents, and we'll be sending out a letter to those residents in areas where they may not be built to current flood protection levels and may have experienced some flooding in the prior year. And it will include some tips for some of the things that they can do to help protect their properties, as well as highlight the work that the city has done. So this is to just help them get ready for rain. Council will see the memo and the letter and the communication piece that we've developed around this campaign to help residents get ready this year. It includes some tips for what residents could do, such as keeping leaves clear from the catch basins, not raking them into the ditches, since the ditches are those conveyance systems, those kinds of tips, and what things to report to us here in Public Works Operations.
That sounds like a great program. I believe you also mentioned that there's going to be stations where people who are in low-lying areas can get sandbags and sand.
Yes, one of the things we're putting together as part of our plan around if there should be a significant event again, is that we would set up, in addition to the works yard, we would have 4 additional locations where residents could get sandbags that we would make available, such as the Hugh Boyd Soccer Field parking lot, the South Arm Community Center parking lot, King George parking lot, King George Park parking lot, I should say, and the Hamilton Community Center parking lot. So those are 4 additional locations that we've identified where we could make sandbags available in the event of a significant storm.
And I'm really pleased that staff have reached out to people who've in the past had flooding problems and keep those lines of communication open so they know that we're here to help. That's wonderful. All right, well, if there are any other items we need to discuss today, if not, I'll call for an adjournment. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.